Hi, my name is Havish Madhupati, and in this example, I want to look at a business problem statement where we want to understand what is the contribution of sales that is coming from new customers that I'm adding every year. Now, there are a couple of factors that we have to keep in mind. Every year, the business would be adding some customers, but in addition to that, they would also be losing some customers who were there with the business last year. So one is that we want to look at a trend where we have been adding customers every year, but at the same time, we also want to break that down and understand um, if there were some customers who purchased from us in the previous year, but who are not purchasing this year. So we are working with the Superstore sales data. I'm going to make a pivot table, and let us start by looking at the number of customers that we have. So I'll keep my customer ID in values. We keep our order date in rows, and as you can see, this gives us the count of customers, but remember, this is the count of transactions. What we are interested in is to look at the number of unique customers who have purchased from us. So let me remove that. If we keep our customer name and our year in columns, so we don't need the quarter and the month here. This gives us a better idea because now it tells me whether one customer has had multiple transactions. As you can see, Aaron has purchased 4 times in 2013. But then this again is really not what we're looking at. What we want to understand is the number of unique customers who are purchasing in a year. So I will put my years in filter, and then if I simply say equal to count all of column AA, this gives me 796, right? So if you notice, one of this value is the grand total, then there is another one which is the year, and finally we have the row label. So let's remove 3 from this, and now this tells us that if I look at the entire 4 years, then over the course of these 4 years there have been 793 customers who have purchased from us. But if we go through this year by year, you notice we get 595, 573, 637 and 693. Now at the same time, I want to understand what is the sale that happened in 2014 from the customers who were also there in the previous year. For this, we keep our year columns, and we can put our sales value in values. Now, if you notice, Aaron purchased in 13 but did not purchase in 14. So in a way, I would say that Aaron is a customer who was there with us in 13 but not in 14, which means that there was a loss of one customer to the business. Similarly, if you look at Adam, Adam was a new customer that we added in 2014. So if you want to understand what is the total sales that has come from new customers, the first thing I'll do is to hide the grand total, which we don't require. So grand totals, we can turn it off. And then we will have to check, did the customer purchase in both 13 and 14. To do this, we say if the value in fact, we don't need to get pivot data. So I'll simply write B5. If B5 is greater than 0, and C5 is also greater than 0. Then we want to show a yes, otherwise we want to say a no. And as you can see, when I copy the formula, we get a bunch of yeses and nos. And if we now do a countif to find how many no's are there, this tells us that there are 356 customers who were there in 13 but who did not purchase in 14. Or if you look at it the other way, there were 433 customers who were common between 2013 and 2014. So I hope this gives you a sense of how we go about it if we did it on Excel manually. But of course, on Power BI, we have an inbuilt measure that can calculate this for us. All right, so I want to start off by making a column chart. And in this, we want to right click on sales and then add a new quick measure. This would be sales from new customers, which is a filter that we're applying. Our customer ID comes in customer ID and our order date comes in date. So what this does is it creates a measure for us where we're keeping a bunch of variables. We have current values and existing values. And current values are essentially a summary of all our customer IDs. But existing values would be looking at only the customers who have purchased from us only in a specific year. And then when we use an accept function, it looks at the left and the right summary tables that we have created. And this is how the result will look. So if I drag my sales and then also put my sales for new customer ID, you notice it gives us the same number in both these cases. But if you put our order date in the axis, this is what we get. So in 13, the sales for both were exactly the same. But if you look at 14, the total sales was 470, while the sales that came from the new customers was 105. So let us see how we could have got this number on Excel. So let me just do this once again. Remember, we are interested to find out which customer was not there in 13 but was only there in 14. So we can say if and C5 is greater than 0 but B5 is blank, then I'm interested to see the sales amount, which is C5. Otherwise, I want blank. And let me copy this all the way down. Right. So you notice we get a bunch of numbers, and these are only for the customers who were there only in 14. And then if we find the sum of all of these, we get 105,388, which is the same number that we're getting here as well. Now we can add a number of elements here. One would obviously be to take the customer ID and put it in tooltip. And to convert this into a distinct count. So this gives us an idea of how many customers were there in total, right? So 595, 573, and so on. But we also want to find out what was the total number of customers who were new for that particular year, which means what was the total number of customers whose sales add up to 105,000. So we can copy the existing measure and then do a little bit of modification on that. So I'll select my first measure, copy the entire thing, right click, and then create a blank measure. All right, and then we can call this count for new customer ID. And we will have to change our calculate to a distinct count and not a sum. and we will not be looking at the sales amount, we would be looking at our customer ID. Excellent. So these are the two changes that we need to make. And now when we pull our count for new customer ID in tooltip, this is the result that we get. So we can see that in 2013, in fact, let me put my sales as well in tooltip. Okay, I think this should be okay. So what we're looking at is 484,000 purchased by 595 customers. Now that was the first year of business, so obviously every customer would be a new customer. In 14, you get this interesting result where 573 total customers had a sales value of 470,000, but 105,000 was generated by 136 customers who were not new to the business but were also there with the business the previous year, right? It's a brilliant way of presenting numbers to management, because when you're trying to understand customer loyalty and maybe same store analysis, you really want to understand what is the organic growth versus inorganic growth. So I hope you like the example. Of course, we can keep a slicer and put the region here in case we wanted to view the contribution of new customers for all the regions separately. But the basic premise is that we have to use a new quick measure to calculate the sum of sales for new customers. And then with a little bit of modification, we can also look at the count of new customers. Wonderful. So I hope you like the example. See you in the next one. Thank you.